Hello, everybody. This is Soke Dieter School of Martial Science. So, today I want to talk to you guys about red zone fighting. Now, as you can see, there's 30 core lessons that make up DSMS. Um, now, here's the deal. Uh, red zone fighting goes something like this. I told y'all there'd be a live stream, and I'm a man of my word. This is the live stream. Nobody shouted out with their time zones. So it's 8:39 p.m. out here in Arizona, and I figured I'd just get us started today like so. I'm not sure if anybody today has talked about some stuff. In my last video, I got into tactical shooting, the legalities, the responsibility for carrying, utilizing discretion when interacting with law enforcement, etc. I want everybody to know today or yesterday, I was driving for work on, I believe it was Friday, and I ended up getting a citation for 70 and a 55. It happens, dude. But it's proof, once I say again, about how, it all depends on how you interact with law enforcement, okay? It all depends on that, whether or not you get shot. Traffic stop went down without a hitch. Matter of fact, when he first turned his lights on, I got out the way because he was in the lane coming against me in a four lane, two on each side, bit of freeway out here in Prescott called the 69. So I didn't even know he was coming for me at first. That was a bit of a surprise, y'all. And then uh, he got behind me, so I knew it was for me. Pulled over. Kept my hands on the wheel. Real cool. I wasn't dressed too much different than I am today. So here's the deal. All right. Red zone fighting is maybe my terminology. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I done picked up a lot of terminology. A lot. So as a result, I don't always know what terms are mine and what I, picked up and utilized from different instructors I've had throughout the years. Red zone fighting in DSMS, Dieter School of Martial Science, it refers to when you're 6 to 20 inches away from your target. Okay, what's known as up close and personal, knees, elbows, you know, control holds, transitions to the ground, grappling, that sort of thing. Um, Now, to be honest, not everybody is is comfortable in this zone. Okay, this zone is quick, it's hard, it's brutal. It's also the most dangerous zone to get into a fight in, which is why we teach it first in my program. Okay, we start with the most hardest part and then work towards the easy stuff, yellow zone, green zone fighting. Okay, think of it like a stoplight. Red is close, yellow is in between, green is go, or green is safe. Now, red zone fighting is hands down tricky, okay? Because this one has to do with three things. One, technique, okay? Technique makes or breaks a red zone fight. As such, different instructors, different technique, different result, okay? If your instructor isn't their techniques don't work real well in red zone fighting, then they don't work so well in red zone fighting. You know what I mean? Now, here's something you guys need to understand. Red zone fighting, the second part that comes into play is muscle tone, and if you've had any type of iron body training. Okay? Simply put, red zone fighting, your likelihood of getting hit is real high. Okay? So, because of that, you got to be able to take a hit. Okay? You got to be able to take that damage. It's not a pleasant thing. It's never fun getting hit. I've been fighting for years. I still hate it when I get hit. Okay? That said, it's dead useful skill set because 99.9% of your confrontations are going to end up on the ground. Okay? And there's only one way to get to the ground. That's close with your opponent and put them there, or they close with you and put you there. So red zone fighting is extremely important to master. Also, a lot of times when you get into a fight, man, I've gotten into fights in the backseat of a car. I've gotten into fights in a phone booth. That's just the nature of the business, okay? As such, you need to be comfortable there. Sorry, the cigarettes go out now if you don't puff on it, even the roll your own. So, two things. One, when fighting in the red zone, you got to remember to keep your elbows tucked to your chest. The posture I'm referring to is called T-Rexing. Okay? There's one reason for this, and that's if you go up, you leave your ribs exposed. So you want to keep these elbows here. Red zone fighting, keep them here. Okay? This right here, this posture, think about it. He punches my head, move to the side, he misses. Okay? It also gives me a chance to fire off these elbows. Fire off that lead hand jab, okay? The cigarette punch. We used to, back in the day, you'd offer a fella a cigarette like I'm smoking now. As he went to inhale, he'd loosen his jaw, right? See? Bing. Right there when he loosened that jaw. Bing. Knock the teeth right up into his mouth, okay? Devastating technique. Old school bar fighting trick. Can't smoke in most bars now. A lot of people don't smoke. There's health risks associated. Lots of studies and stuff have been put out on that. I ain't going to get into that because what you do to your own body is your choice. All I want is, like we talked about in Intro to Ethics, that you accept responsibility for your actions and don't make excuses. Okay. Red zone fighting is a good skill. Intro to grappling. Grappling, if you look up in the dictionary, look up the terminology, grappling refers to wrestling techniques, okay? Wrestling refers to groundwork techniques, throwing people to the ground, controlling them when they're in the ground. If you really want to get real technical, grappling is your stand-up transition to the ground. Okay, years ago, we used to use a technique we would fish hook. Like this. And throw the person to the ground. That's grappling. That used to be called fish hooking. I don't know what they call it now. So, here's the deal. When you go to fight, in red zone, two things you need to remember. One, you got to control the pace. Okay? Red zone fighting is exhausting. Okay? The longer you stay in that theater, the more likelihood you are to get tired. You get tired, you lose the fight. You can't breathe, you lose the fight. Okay, chest capacity is another thing. You know, don't hunch up. Keep your back straight. Give your lungs room to move. Okay. I used to tell folk all the time I bet on fights, whether it was boxing or UFC, didn't matter. And I'd be able to call the fight less than a minute in because I'd be like, well, that fella's hunched up. He's going to lose his wind. He's going to lose the fight. Every time I'd be right. Okay, so keep a straight back. Roll those hips down. Let the hips drop so your lungs can have the maximum room to go in and out. All right. So grappling techniques are simple. You got your arm bar where you get a hold and you put pressure in right behind that elbow. Okay. Um, I'm a big fan of reverse joint principle. Okay, and that is if I apply pressure to your index finger and I pull it to the left, then it locks the wrist locks the elbow locks the rotator cuff, and that locks up shoulder. Okay, that's the reverse joints principle. I'm a big fan of using those techniques in a fight because it involves less force on your part. Okay, because the body does half the work locking it up for you. Another trick is to take the toes of the foot, rotate them to the top of the shin bone. Okay, that locks up the shin, which locks up the knee, which locks up the hip. Red zone fighting also involves going to the ground. So learning your break falls are important. Okay, years ago when I was with Kangwon Martial Arts Institute, one of the very first things Grandmaster Richard J. Lewis taught us was break falls. I can't tell you how many times I've been with instructors since then, and they've used me to demonstrate techniques because I knew how to fall. A Gunny Cherry in Houston, Texas, who teaches Kaiji Kimbo, used to always have me demonstrate. He had black belts in his class that he wouldn't demonstrate techniques on because they just didn't know how to fall as good as I did. Now, Grandmaster Lewis, I can't give him 100% of the credit for that because before I ever came to Ohio, um, uh, I was a gymnastics kid. Okay, so I learned to fall through gymnastics as well. Two things to remember. One, it's important that you never reach for the ground. The bones in your wrist are real fragile. You reach for the ground, put all your body weight on it, they're going to break. Take the hit on the side of your body, okay? Take the hit on your shoulder, butt, and work towards your back. But above all else, take the hit on your forearms. Above all else, never reach from the ground, okay? Grandmaster Lewis had 3 break falls that he taught. He taught the, backward, back fall, break fall, which involved bringing your hands up, letting your ass hit the floor first. As your ass hit the floor, you roll back. As you roll back and your shoulders touch the mat, you slap the ground to arrest the fall, arrest the momentum. He taught the side fall, which was he had his first squat, put your hands up like this, shoot the leg. When the shoulder hit, the arm hit to stop you from rolling forward. Okay. He taught dead man's fall, where you would start here, you would fall straight forward with your hands like this, and then take the hit on the forearms and the thighs. Now those are all very good ways to fall. I use them to this day. I also include one that he didn't teach, and that is known as the calf knee. Okay, so when somebody hits you from the side, you're hit from the side. What I teach my students to do is let their heel roll to, or let their body fall to the side. Take both knees, try to put them together into the ground. As the knees hit the ground, you roll to your thigh on the back, taking that hit on the back, really on the back, left side of your thigh muscle, and then of course the left side of your rib cage and shoulder. um I use this one a lot because a lot of times I found that people will go for a leg sweep or a single leg takedown, and it's easier to fall kind of backwards at an angle than it is to fall straight back or to the side. Another one that I teach my students is a rollover. Okay, and that's where if you're falling forward and for whatever reason, maybe they have your arm in an arm bar, you shoot that hand down between, like right in front of your knees, and let your body hit the ground. Okay, that rotating fall allows you to transition so that your belly's facing the enemy. Hopefully you can get your arm back. Um, learning to fall safely is going to be important. um, Red zone fighting is, like I said, it's risky business. Okay, uh, grappling and groundwork are very simple. Okay, in groundwork, there's only maybe three positions you can start out on the ground with. Right, first one is you standing over somebody on the ground. Okay, that's obvious. But the second two is known as mount and guard. Now, there's different variations of both. Guard is when you're on your back and they're attempting to either go for a mount, or they're still standing and you're bringing your knees to your chest and you're focusing on using your feet to keep the distance. There's a couple of MMA fighters that are fond of using that particular technique. Um, then you have obviously mount. Mount is exactly what it sounds like. You're literally straddling the torso, straddling the lower body, or straddling the upper chest. Either one works. Okay. I always point to the older brother thing where he would kneel on your arms and then he would drool on you and suck it back up, and drool on you and suck it back up. Okay. That's mount. As always, I want to give a shout out to SRT, a subscriber. It's real flattering. Always appreciate your support, brother. So here's the deal. When you go to transition to the ground, there's about two, three ways you can do it. The first one is you can take the legs out from under somebody. Wide variety of techniques for that. It would take too long to get into that on here. The other option is you can move the upper body to the ground. Also, a lot of varieties of that particular technique. And then the last one is you can move the head towards the ground. That one, there's not as many different techniques you can use. Okay. Um, I tell folk all the time, and they look at me like I'm crazy. I almost always keep a fight in the stand up grain. Okay. I just do. There's a reason behind that. Like I said, I've been doing this for about 20 years. Um, my body hurts, dude. I got cartilage in my knees. I've broken lots of bones. Fractured my skull about 20 times. Just a lot of different things I've done over the years to my body. Groundworking is a lot of it is brutal on the body. So if I can, I keep it in the stand up realm where that's not even a factor. That's it. If I have to take a fight to the ground, and I've had to take a fight to the ground, I prefer to transition to the ground with my opponent. Okay? What I mean by that is, remember I said the first way to introduce somebody to the ground, you're standing and they're on the ground. I don't like to do that. Here's why. When you do that, you got to then get up close and personal to them to finish the fight, or you got to let them get up and then finish the fight. Either one of those can result in you losing. Okay, 99% of combat victory is achieved through swift and sudden violence. You don't give the opponent a chance to recover. So if I have to transition to the ground, I tend to go with my debtor. Okay. As such, I use combination techniques. Like, I'll go for a punch. As I hit him and his head sloops back, I'll extend, I'll grab the collar. As I grab the collar, I step behind his leg. As I step behind his leg, I dump both of us to the ground. After he hits, I roll him over on top of me. I go in for a rear naked. I come up and collect it. I scoop in behind the ear and shove my thumb into it, okay? My goal here is to maintain control over the subject, okay? If I have to, I hold him down there. I got his eye, just choking him out and holding the eye, okay? The reason I choose to do that is, like I said, I don't want him to recover. My body hurts. I need it over quickly, okay? Um, I might go for, an isosceles where he goes to punch. I dip that punch with a parry. I slide back behind him, hook his back of his neck in my crease of my elbow. I throw him to the ground and I come down with him. As he hits, my knee tucks to the dirt. And then I transition over top of him. Okay. Um, we've all heard the term ground and pound, those of us who have watched MMA or UFC. I personally don't like fighting that way. Here's why. When you fight on the ground and you're busy wailing punches, right, it gives the opponent the opportunity to shoulder throw you off of him. Okay? All it takes is you overextending once or your torso going above your hips. Once your weight shifts forward, he can throw you off of him. Like I said, I need it over quickly. So for me, I tend to use chokes, eye gouges, pain pressure points. Um, I'll go for arm breaks, neck breaks, uh, anything I can do on the ground that doesn't involve me having to strike him. Leg breaks, anything I can go for that way. Um, there's a lot of grappling you can do stand up, right? One of the techniques I used to use is I would start my fight in a ready position, right? The minute they punch, my left hand would scoop up, slide along theirs, catch them on the curve of my wrist. I'd bring the right hand up and pop the elbow. Okay, if I can, I'll break it on the back of my hand coming up. Then what I do is I would transition my hand flat and I'd go for a compound fracture to the elbow and break it that way. I'd scoop around, grabbing the bicep, and I'd push his hand forward into the figure eight position. And after I have his arm up like that, I would try to drive it forward, scoop the neck, bring the forearm up into the jaw. Then I would come back, dump my forearm into the brachial nerve. Then I'd slap the eardrum as the head rotated out the way. I'd move it a little bit, and then I'd hit that side of the neck, go for the fracturing of the spinal column, um, or the carotid artery stun. Either one works, depends on how hard I get that hit in. Okay, that's grappling because I start my attack with a control hold. Okay. I started with my control hold. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? And that's how I'd fight. Another one you can use is as they go to punch, you bring it down. As they go down, you pop the elbow. After you break the elbow, you come and you bring their arm up, break it sideways. As you break it sideways, you slide in, step in, drive them to the earth. As you drive them to the earth, the forearm goes into the floating ribs. As they hit the deck, the left hand comes up and breaks the neck through the front of the cricoid cartilage. Okay? Boom, 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 boom. Okay? Just like that. Um, those are all techniques that I've used time and time again that start with striking, transition into trap, which is when you get one of their arms. And that's a trap, okay? And then it goes into grappling right with that break, okay? Another one I used to use is the groin scoop, right? He goes to punch. I dip the punch. The right hand forearm comes up under the groin area. I lift the target up and I shove them sideways, rotation, okay? Counterclockwise. Goal is to put the head into the ground first. We used to call that groin scoop and plant in my street fighting days, in my army days. Um, these are all techniques you can use. Now, one of the main things you got to remember, when you go to fight on the ground, if you give them a chance to recover, the tide changes, to quote Miyamoto Musashi. So, when the tide changes, the dynamic of the fight changes, okay? So, it's important that you go swift and attack right after they transition to the ground. In the event that you're in the ground, okay, and you know what, you got to try to go for that shoulder rollout when they overextend or they shift their weight. You got to try to avoid a choke. I mean, everybody, there's probably a lot of videos out there, but just to highlight, defense against a choke goes like this. You want to try to drop the jaw to avoid them cutting off your wind, okay? You want to try to get a hand in there too to provide a little bit of barrier against the carotid artery being applied pressure to. If you can, you roll the shoulder, make it harder for them to get a good squeeze on you. The next thing you need to do is relax your body completely, dead weight, okay? As they go to, as they're trying to support your dead weight, you attempt to then bust free. Either pull them to the ground, take out the arm that's holding you, or go for, ribs, groin, just about anything you can hit will help you out at that point. Another thing to do is to remember to breathe through your nose. Just because your airway and your throat is being squeezed doesn't mean your sinuses all of a sudden got cut off. Okay, it's possible for the brain to get a few seconds oxygen just through the sinus cavity where it goes through the nose and into the brain. That'll keep you alert a little bit longer. So stop mouth breathing, everybody. When you get to that, when you they got that choke on you, start breathing through the nose. Remember to stay relaxed, stay calm. Adrenaline speeds up the heart rate that loses your wind faster. That's the defense against a choke, okay? One of the techniques I see people do a lot of times in the movies and shit is they're getting choked out, they go limp. As the guy tries to support their weight and his head comes down, they grab his head and throw him to the ground. In real life, if you do that, you'll probably break your own neck. Okay, so don't do that. It's just a movie thing. Because in the movies, the guy that's pretending to choke him out loosens his grip on his neck. In real life, if you go to throw somebody over you and they've got their arm around your throat, they're gonna bust the back of your neck. Okay, that's what's gonna happen in real life. The only way to avoid that is if you go to throw them over your head, you roll with them, doing a shoulder roll over the back. That's the only hope in hell you got against breaking your neck. And even then, you're going to probably have whiplash and need to have a neck brace and some ibuprofen for a couple of months. So don't do that. Either peel the arm off, break the body, shove the ear, clap the eardrum, whatever you got to do to them, but don't try to pull them over you. Okay? I've seen too many people get hurt doing that. Hugo. All right. So you got a little introduction to groundwork. You got an introduction to defense against the choke and all of that good stuff. There's one last thing I want to talk to you people about, and that be um, constant vigilance. You probably heard me say stay safe, stay aware, constant vigilance. Okay? Constant vigilance means that I want you to be actively scanning for threats to your safety. Okay? That's why I tell you to be aware and stay safe. Being aware means being aware of your surroundings. Vigilance means being not just aware of your surroundings, but scanning them actively for a potential threat. These two things help you avoid confrontation. Avoiding confrontation means you live longer. Okay? One of the things that I've noticed since I've been out here in the civilian world, a lot of people carry guns and have absolutely no idea how to use them. Um, I talked a little bit in tactical shooting about plug and play gunfighting. Remember, when you go to grapple with somebody, it's always best to take the gun out of play because your odds of being able to hold on to it are slim to none. So, one of the things you guys should practice is what's known as an emergency unload. That takes the weapon out of play. So, when you go and you realize that the gun didn't work, you're grappling now, it's a fist fight. One of the things you need to do is demag it. Okay? If you have a revolver, you want to free the cylinder and try to dump the bullets out. This means that in an automatic, there's one in the chamber. In a revolver, it means that the weapon's empty. Now it's just a bludgeoning object. Then what you want to try to do is you want to try to kick that magazine away, or in the case of a revolver, you want to toss the revolver at least 25, 30 feet from you until you get control over the fist fight. Then you can always get your gun back. Um, in the case of an automatic, you want to attempt to cycle the slide. If you can't cycle the slide after you demag, then discharge the round in a safe direction away from civilians that might be in your backdrop. So that way the weapon doesn't have a live bullet in it. Also, the sound of a gunshot going off in close proximity will probably startle your opponent. They'll check to see if they've been shot. That gives you a chance to go offensive and bring the pain. The most important thing is, like I said, most important thing is going to be get that gun safe. Okay, that way it can't be used against you. Once your semi-automatic pistol is empty, toss that too. Try to toss it in the opposite direction of the magazine. In the event that for whatever reason you can't make the weapon safe, at least toss it away. In the event that you can't toss it away, at least reholster it and try to put the retention strap up, whatever mechanism it uses. So that way it's less likely to be used against you in the coming fist fight. Um, Another thing practice is combat reloads. Okay, with a pistol, that means that you're going to keep the weapon online to the enemy and just rotate this, literally drop the magazine. As you drop the magazine, you bring the next one in, pour it up, work the slide release, bang, you're good. Another technique you can use is you can dump the magazine at an angle or another angle, make it easier to pour it in, then tap the slide release and you can fire or bring it back online. Okay. Um, some people find the side port easier. They find it easier to insert a new magazine like this. Some people are better with the vertical. I like the vertical because the weapon stays in the same direction. As we drop the new mag, we put the new one in and thumb the release. Weapon stays online with the target. That's a personal preference. It's up to you. Um, when you're dealing with an AR-15 style or actual AR-15 platform semi-automatic rifle, what I want you to do is a similar process. You take the stock of the muzzle, you thumb the mag release. As the mag release is dropped, as the mag release is dropped, okay, as you drop the mag, you're gonna literally put the new one in. As you tap the new one in, you're going to push the bolt release, slide that bolt through. Then you tap forward assist and you're good to go. Okay, if your weapon doesn't have forward assist, then you're going to have to slide the bolt. Okay, that's when you pull the lever on top back and then you're good to go. Okay, and that's your process there. Okay, so it's literally demag, put the new mag in, tap the release, close the bolt, tap forward assist with your thumb or your index finger if you need to, or if your weapon doesn't have the forward assist, then you're gonna literally support the weapon with your muzzle hand. You're gonna pull the slide back to you. Boom, that's it. Okay, so it's really easy. It's just demag, drop, new, tap, forward assist, go. Or it might be demag, top, pull, go. Okay, and that's it. Okay, weapons should never be offline. Okay, get real comfortable. You're gonna literally be doing that a lot with an AR-15 or any type of other semi-automatic magazine-fed weapon. So, um, with an AK style, right? You drop the mag, press the bolt release. The bolt release is on the right side of the magazine well. Press it with your index finger. And then, you can, if you have to, you can thumb it back and put it back in line. Okay? That same process. Um, when you're grappling, you want to do the same thing with the rifle. You want to cycle the rifle. Okay? So that means dropping the mag, cooking off the round, or yanking the bolt back. You know, toss it. You're good to go. AK-47 style, you're gonna drop the mag. You're gonna either cook off the round or you're gonna cycle the bolt with your thumb. You're good to go. Um. Uh. regardless, when you get to that red zone fighting, you don't want a live weapon in play. Um, another thing I see is a lot of people carry knives for self-defense. In a red zone fighting, you want to try to maintain control over that knife. You want to keep it in your hands, okay? In the event that you can't, for whatever reason, and it looks like the other guy is going to get control over it, your goal is to, again, throw it away from you. Um, uh, uh, anyway, the other thing I want to talk to you guys about is uh, when we go to uh, I recently became a part due to meditation and some visions that were received that I needed to at this stage of my life turn to druidery. Um, and so I joined an organization called the ADF, our Druid Fellowship, our Druid thing. Um, Understanding the warrior's path will allow you the opportunity to truly be free. Most people on this planet aren't free, okay? They're owned by their debt. They're owned by the demands of a family. They're owned by the demands of a job. A warrior is free from all of that. What I mean by that is, as because a warrior has to be prepared to lay down their life, then their family never prevents them from something because they know that they may have to leave the family through death. So when you accept the fact that crossing the veil might be a part of your life, it frees you from the fear of it. You say everything you want to say to your wife, to your kids, to your loved ones every day on the off chance that you might not see them again for dinner. So there's nothing left that needs to be said or done. Same's true for the job. The warrior knows that wherever he goes, he has the ability to survive. He can hunt, he can fish, he can run a trout line. Um, and so the warrior doesn't need to be employed. The warrior knows that in the event that he needs something, he can take it. The warrior also understands that he can always get hired somewhere else. The warrior therefore has no attachments and has no fear. Um, I talked a little bit about having a code of ethos, a code of ethics. I recited the Soldier's Creed in a couple of my videos as a good starting point for you to come up with your own uh, creed, code of conduct that you live by. One thing that I can tell you that I have learned in my life is that to be truly free is a state of mind. It's the ability to know that you will be all right no matter what. Mastering the warriors arts gives you that self-knowledge. It can be lonely. Some people just won't get it. The other day, some good friends of mine ended up moving back home to Louisiana. Um, and they did that, and I felt nothing but a little bit of jealousy that I was still here in AZ. That's because the warrior knows that friendships come and go, people come and go, but true friends are eternal. True brothers are eternal. That means that if I run into them fellas again, I know we're going to pick up right where we left off. Um, a person who has no fear is scary to those that live their life in fear, okay? Because he's different, she's different. Accept that. Use their fear to your advantage because they're prey and you're the predator, okay? Allow them to trap themselves up. Um, don't get offended, don't get hurt by it. Some of the people you associate with as you master the warrior's arts are going to fall off. That's because they just can't keep up with it. That's okay. Let them go. If not this life, the next life. The warrior has to be able to master the skill of letting go. A wise sage once said, I do not fear death, nor do I seek it, but I embrace it. In order to deal death, you need to be able to embrace death, okay? And you need to recognize it as an old friend, the implacable enemy that you're never going to be able to beat. And then once you have no fear of it, you hold dominion over it and you can wield it as you see fit. This process is known as embracing the shadow, okay? The shadow lives inside all of us. It's that time you lost your temper and was cussing and carrying on because somebody cut you off. It's the desire you have when you see a cute woman to make her your own, even though you're married. It's the desire to uh, fight, the desire to procreate. These are all aspects of the shadow. Okay. A psychologist named Carl Jung did extensive work on the shadow. The warrior doesn't fight his shadow. That's the difference between the warrior and everybody else. The warrior realizes that the shadow is a crucial, essential part of who he is or she, and as such embraces the shadow and the power that it gives. The warrior therefore has to live their life in the moment. There is no past, there is no future, there is now. The warrior understands that whilst the shadow is not inherently evil, some of the actions the shadow may take will be perceived as such. Embracing the shadow will probably be the most difficult part of your transition from civilian to warrior. And I can give you some advice. As you let the shadow control yourself, the gateway to that is meditation. That's why the warrior has to be able to still the mind and free the subconscious. Um, so practice that daily. The 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 second bit of advice I can give you is a story that was told to me by one of my teachers, uh, a medicine man, a shaman, and this Northern Cheyenne shaman told me once. He said, "You know, inside every man, there are two wolves, one black, one white, and one is just a state of pure animalistic instinct and savagery, and the other is the opposite, the civilized, the controlled, the polished, the thoughtful, the empathetic. And the one that wins is the one you feed the most." There's a fine line between the warrior and the animal. The way that the warrior maintains control is he feeds both of them equally till they merge as one, and then he has one gray wolf inside of him. Then, when there's no struggle, no turmoil inside the warrior's heart, then he can master others. In order to get control over somebody else, you got to be able to control yourself. That's what martial arts training starts out about. It starts out about knowing where your body is, knowing where your weight is, knowing where your strength is. It starts out with control over your heart, control over your breath, control over your mind. It starts out with control over your body. Afterwards, you realize that you need to control the spirit as well. And once you achieve that uh, state of completeness, that's when the master warrior emerges and is able to laugh and smile and enjoy a good comedy, and at the same time maintain their composure while dealing death. The truth of the matter is, most people never master the beast inside of them. They never achieve a state of harmony with it. So what happens is they live their life with ups and downs. They continuously do one thing and then try to do something different. The warrior has peace because the warrior is already dead. When you become a warrior, you surrender your life. And by surrendering, you find strength. Through strength, you find power. Through power, you gain dominion. Okay? You have to be willing to accept the fact that you are. You're both good, you're both bad. You're both strong, you're both weak. This duality, this is what gives the warrior their power. I wish you the best in merging your soul into one. Remember, the gateway is meditation. I look forward to seeing you on the plane. Remember, be safe, be aware, constant vigilance. Be blessed, y'all. Till next time.